Good morning. Welcome to Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace. Welcome to the soul of Sunday. We are Unitarian Universalists. Ours is a historic faith with a progressive theology. We affirm the worth and dignity of every being, and that we are all deeply interconnected. We are bound to one another not by creed, but by covenant. And we are called to answer the call of love with open minds, open hearts, and open hands. Whoever you are, those of all nations, all creeds, all colors, all kinds of love, you are welcome here. As we gather, we acknowledge that Arlington Street Church occupies the ancestral homeland of the Massachusetts. By making this land acknowledgement, we recognize, honor, and affirm the sovereignty of all First Nations peoples.
Calm the tempests of my heart, O my God. Calm the tempests of my heart, O my God. Be still, O my soul, so that God may rest in thee. Bringing peace which the world can never take away. Calm the tempests of my heart, O my God. Calm the tempests of my heart, O my God. Be still, O my soul, so that God may rest in thee. Bringing peace that the world can never take away. Calm the tempests of my heart, O my God. Calm the tempests of my heart, O my God. Be still, O my soul, so that God may rest in thee. Bringing peace that the world can never take away.
Dear ones, welcome. Welcome to our Zoomers. Welcome to the congregation gathered here in the sanctuary. I want to say a special welcome home to our beloved Tori Bell. Tori, give us a wave. There she is, singing in the choir this morning. Tori and her wife Holly are longtime Arlington Street members who retired to the wilds of Maine. We're so happy you're here. I want to welcome Addie, Barbara Ginhart's friend. Addie, happy birthday, Addie. And I want to welcome our beloved Ksenia here from Pennsylvania, here in Boston for a conference in her second year of medical school. So thrilled to welcome you home, sweetheart. Welcome. Our executive minister, oh wait, the Buckles are here too. I'm looking at you with great love and forgot to welcome you. Mike and Jerry Buckles and Shiloh Buckles, Mark David's daughter. Many of you know Jerry from the chat. Here she is in the flesh. Great to see you, sweetheart. It's so great. Our executive minister, Reverend Beth Robbins, is in the Zoom room this morning. Hi, Reverend Beth. I want to say a very special thanks to our volunteers who are here in the sanctuary, tech team, Great Doors team, greeters and ushers, worship team, musicians, and the Arlington Street Church Choir, directed by Mark David Buckles. Be sure you say happy birthday to Mark David. Happy birthday, my love. If you're here with a baby or child, there are Sarah and Morgan Cooleybeck. So thrilled that you're here to take an eye out for the kids. Thank you, my dears. Following the guidance of the Boston Public Health Commission, we're continuing to mask and physically distance here in the sanctuary. Please keep your mask over your nose and mouth the whole time you're inside to protect our most vulnerable spiritual companions. Thank you, friends. For those of you who are new to Arlington Street, I want to say a very special welcome to you. In the sanctuary, there are welcome cards in the pew racks. You can hand yours to an usher or drop it in the basket at the Great Doors as you leave. Welcome, friends. And for those of you in the Zoom room, please fill out a connection card. Thanks to Frank Lee for putting that link in the chat. It includes an option to request the link to a recording of today's sermon. Since we can't greet all of you in person after the service, Reverend Beth and I would love to follow up with a virtual hello. Whether you've been coming here for years or today is your first time at Arlington Street, welcome home.
Good morning. If you haven't already downloaded today's order of service, it's available in the chat and on the homepage at ascboston.org. For our guests here in the sanctuary, there are printed copies at the Great Doors. Also on the homepage, you'll find a link to Sermon Bingo. Feel free to play along while Rev Kim preaches. As we begin our greetings, I invite the Zoomers and those here in the sanctuary with a device handy to please say hello in the chat and tell us where you're zooming in from. And now, Rich is going to turn the camera on the incarnate congregation as we wave and smize at each other, as well as at our friends in the Zoom room. And you all in the Zoom room can wave and smile back. Hello, friends. Let's all engage that Arlington Street spirit of welcome that transcends physical distance as we greet one another heart to heart.
Thanks, Hala. Choir, you can come on up. Our first hymn today is O River by the band Ma Muse. Christian Longacre composed this one. I'm going to teach it to you. And it's also a partner song, which means a song that has two melodies usually that interlock together. And as we go, we'll teach them one at a time. You can feel free to sing either one. So can we have C major, Hyungju? So the first part goes like this. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Let's all try that. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Now there's a higher part, which is just a harmony for that one. It is almost all on this note. If you want to try to sing the higher part, you can sing it with me. It goes like this. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. You can pick either one of those two parts or a third or fourth part you'll hear in the choir, or your own fifth or sixth part. I invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit. Let's sing this together. We'll add the second melody partway through the song. We'll start with just finding my way back home. It goes like this. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Let's try that again. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Finding my way, 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 finding my way back home. Here's the second part. It goes like this. Oh, river, I hear you, feel you calling me. Oh, river, who will I be when I reach the sea? Try that with me. Oh, river, I hear you, feel you calling me. Oh, river, who will I be when I reach the sea? Sing that again. Oh, river. Oh, river, I hear you, feel you calling me. Oh, river, who will I be when I reach the sea? Pick one of those. Oh, river or finding. One more time through. Finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, finding my way. I hear you, feel you calling me. Finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, finding my way. Who will I be when I reach the sea? Amen. Maybe seated.
It is now time for our treasured ritual of sharing community candles of sorrow and joy. These candles were submitted on our website by the Friday evening deadline. If you didn't submit your candle and have a joy or sorrow to share this morning, please wait until the third candle is lit, the silent candle, and then type your joy or sorrow in that chat. Zoomers are invited to light silent candles at home. Those in the sanctuary are invited to light a silent candle at the table up front to the right of the Gleason podium. In addition to sharing our sorrows and joys this morning, let's reach out to one another in the week ahead, staying connected. May these times remind us of how very precious this beloved community is. We need one another. Whether together or apart, may we stay very close. And now, in the spirit of invocation, let's join in singing Sanctuary. The words are printed in your order of service and in the chat.
Sanctuary.
Some of us come today with heavy hearts. We open our hearts to you.
We have one candle of sorrow today from Fran Peterson. For my sister-in-law Sherry and our family. Sherry spent 5 weeks in the hospital and has now come home on hospice. Sherry struggles with complications from idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. We pray that her time with us is filled with love and her transition is peaceful.
And some of us come today in joy. We share your joy.
A candle of joy from Maureen Timms Peterson. This candle is for Betsy Shearer, who lost her mother this past week. Betsy, all of your friends in the circle of caring are surrounding you in healing love. May your mom rest in peace. A final candle of joy from Mike and Jerry Buckles. Happy birthday to our wonderful son, Mark David Buckles. Thank you for the joy and happiness you bring to the congregation with your music and love. Thank you also to the musicians and the choir for your heartwarming songs, and to Reverend Kim for your positive sermons that inspire us to be better persons.
For all the sorrows and all the joys we hold in our hearts, we light a silent candle to remember and to rejoice. May the peace of this sanctuary enter into our hearts as we share a quiet moment together, breathing our prayers for ourselves, for one another, for our country, and for the world. Amen.
Let's join in saying together the affirmation and covenant of this beloved spiritual community. The words are printed in your order of service and in the chat. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak our truths in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de nuestra congregación, y el servicio es nuestro regalo. Esto es a lo que nos comprometemos, convivir en paz, hablar nuestras verdades con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Our next hymn is from a song called Singing the Spirit Home. It's been a song of protest and solidarity for some time. I learned about this song first hearing it as it was sung by protesters during the apartheid movement as they were being arrested in South Africa. So for a long time, this has been a message of solidarity. Can we have the C major? So it's sort of a call and response song, and then it has a part that we sing together. So I'll sing a piece, goes like this. Courage, you sing that back to me. Courage, my friend. And then together we sing, you do not go alone. So let's try that whole first phrase together. Courage, my friend, you do not go alone. We will go with you and sing your spirit home. I invite us to rise in body, rise in spirit, and let's sing together. Courage, my friend, you do not go alone. We will go with you and sing your spirit home. Justice, justice, my friend, you do not go alone. We will go with you and sing your spirit home. Freedom, freedom, my friend, you do not go alone. We will go with you and sing your spirit home. Patience, my friend, you do not go alone. We will go with you and sing your spirit home. Dignity, dignity, my friend, you do not go alone. We will go with you and sing your spirit home. If not now, then when you do not go alone, we will go as one and sing your spirit home. We will go as one and sing your spirit
It takes some work to find some good news these days. Our fear can be debilitating. So let's talk about courage. I read a beautiful piece about courage this week, just 3 sentences that caught my eye. They say, in essence, there are 2 kinds of courage in this world. One demands that we armor up and leap into action. The other demands that we strip naked and surrender. The word courage comes from the French word for heart, spirit, temperament, bravery. It's really the essence of it, isn't it? Moral courage, emotional courage, and yes, raw physical courage all come from the heart. I want to speak about spiritual courage today, not the courage of conviction, but the courage to live in free fall, unhooking ourselves from where we're hung up and seeing clearly with unclouded vision, seeing with an open heart. Spiritual courage is subtle, but very, very powerful. The Buddha taught that there are 8 worldly concerns that drive us and threaten to run our lives. He presented them in 4 pairs of opposites: pleasure and pain, gain and loss, fame and disgrace, praise and blame. We're hooked by the former and gutted by the latter, until it dawns on us that there's more to life than pursuing temporary relief and avoiding discomfort. That there's really something in embracing what Zorba the Greek famously called the full catastrophe, and really getting that life is always all of everything. Many years ago, a member of the congregation stopped in at the church, wildly agitated. Although he was an elementary school teacher with a matching salary and no training in investing, he had been up for nights in a row putting together a wildly complicated real estate deal. He was, he said, a millionaire. Overnight, a millionaire. He was ecstatic. Deeply concerned, I slept on it for a night and then stopped by his house the next morning on the way to work. He didn't answer the door, but it was unlocked, and I let myself in. The kitchen looked like he'd given a big dinner party and neglected to clean up. The ransacked living room looked like he'd been robbed. I found him in his bedroom, utterly despondent, almost catatonic. He was crashing from mania. It was heartbreaking. He managed to tell me that the deal, everything, had fallen apart. He also mentioned almost casually that he had stopped taking his lithium. Concerned that he was a danger to himself, I called an ambulance. When he was released from the hospital, himself again, I sat with him as he pieced together what had happened. And something he said has stayed with me ever since. You know, he said, I'm okay with my financial situation, just as it is. I wasn't unhappy to begin with, and I'm not unhappy now. It was the madness for more that made me miserable. This is precious insight into the 8 worldly concerns: pleasure and pain, gain and loss, fame and disgrace, praise and blame. We don't have to be suffering from mental illness to be carried away by them. Tibetan Buddhist Lama Dzigar Kongtrul Rinpoche calls it our split personality. We can walk a spiritual path and still be enslaved by the 8 worldlies. The trick is to commit to clear vision. Can we clearly see where we're hooked? Can we summon spiritual courage and wholeheartedness and lean into the spiritual practices that free us. The goal is to live in the center, unswayed by the pull of either extreme. On the afternoon of the day I got my license, my mother asked me to take her car and fill it up. I was ecstatic. My first time alone in the car. I drove to the gas station and hopped out. The gentleman at the next pump suddenly dropped the hose and fell to the ground. My Girl Scout troop had just completed our annual first aid course renewal. We had practiced mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on Resusci Annie, a life-size mannequin, though chest compressions hadn't yet come into vogue with our trainers. If someone wasn't breathing, you rolled them onto their back, cleared their airway, tipped their chin into the air, pinched their nose, sealed your mouth over theirs, and breathed for them. And so I knelt down next to the unresponsive man, took a big gulp of air, and began. I was vaguely aware of the gas station owner rushing out and then back inside to call the fire department. Unfortunately, he called the fire department in the wrong town. I remember feeling absolutely focused and tiring. It was more than 20 minutes before the sirens approached. I remember the gentleman suddenly moving a little, coughing just a little. The fire trucks and ambulance arrived, and it was suddenly noisy. They moved around me to set up their equipment. I looked up, and one of them told me sternly to just keep going. "Okay, stop now," someone said, and I sat back, stood slowly, and got out of the way. Someone said, "He's alive." Dazed, I walked inside the gas station. The owner gave me a Coke. When I finally returned home, my mother was furious. Where had I been? Skeptical of my story, she called the hospital. Yes, the doctor was alive and being treated in the emergency room right now. The doctor. It turned out he was the local physician from the next town. That night, I overheard my mother call the hospital again to check on him. He had suffered a second heart attack and died. I went from elation to utter devastation. I lay awake awash in terrible sadness, alone with my first intimacy with death and the worst failure of my life. In the morning, the phone rang. It was for me. Numbly, I took the phone from my mother. It was Mrs. Rose Ruse, my scout leader, the one who taught me first aid. She told me she knew I must be very disappointed, but that it wasn't my fault. Doc's heart was bad. I tried and failed to hold back tears. "Listen," she said, "with no one to help, he would have died at the gas pump. You gave his family the time to get to the hospital. They were able to see him. They could tell each other, 'I love you.' You're too young to understand this now, but that's a lot." I'm still trying to understand. Still learning from having ricocheted from exalted to shattered, and the ways the kindness of Mrs. Ruse steadied a tender teenager and brought me back to center. I was sad, but not undone. No longer suffering under the tyranny of what would have been, could have been, should have been, but taking my place in the tender, broken-hearted present. This is what it means to live right in the center of the 8 worldly concerns: pleasure and pain, gain and loss, fame and disgrace, praise and blame, not to live at the outer edges, but to come to center, to live in the eye of the storm, demands spiritual courage. American Tibetan Buddhist nun Pema Chodron writes, when you look at what gets to you, it will undoubtedly have something to do with what you want to do or not or do not want. Whenever you realize you're caught, right then, right on the spot, with kindness for yourself, you can acknowledge that you're hooked. And then you can ask yourself, which of the 8 worldly concerns has me in its grip? Fear of loss, hope of gain, the pain of being blamed, the desire to be praised? And who's in control here? Me or the 8 worldlies? They are at bottom just an outdated mechanism for survival. In that sense, we're still functioning at a very primitive level, completely at the mercy of hope and fear. The mechanism of avoiding pain and seeking pleasure once kept us from being eaten. It worked well for our ancestors, but it isn't working very well for us now. In fact, we continually overreact when it's hardly a life or death matter. We're like ping pong balls bouncing back and forth by our aversions and desires, and we're way overdue for a fresh alternative. Among Native peoples, the Hopi Nation is considered to be the earth protectors, the ones with the deepest knowledge about the survival of our planet. On June 8th, 2000, the Hopi elders made a prediction using this metaphor. We are in a fast-flowing river, they said. Many of us will be afraid and will try to cling to the shore. But those who cling will suffer greatly. Let go of the shore, they said. Push off into the middle of the river. Look around to see who is there with you. And celebrate. That's a quote. And celebrate. If we don't act on our craving for pleasure or our fear of pain, we're left in that wide, unpredictable middle. The instruction is to rest in that vulnerable place, that in-between state, which is where we always are. We're always in process, never fully arriving. And so summon the courage not to act in the same old ways, but to take a chance. It builds confidence in our ability to live without a game plan, to live unfettered by hope or fear. Courage. Courage. In the 1960s, Zen student Ed Brown was the head cook at Tassajara Zen Mountain Center in California. Being head cook is a really hard job, made harder, I'm sure, by having to work with an unending parade of volunteers who know nothing about commercial kitchens and are constantly threatening to ruin whole meals. Kem and I have been 2 of those volunteers we know. Ed, despite being a really great guy, was infamous for his terrible temper. Once, in a fury, he went to his teacher, the famed Suzuki Roshi, with bitter complaints. People were talking when the kitchen should be silent. They were distracted and downright dangerous with the knives. They didn't clean up properly. Suzuki Roshi said simply, Ed, if you want a calm kitchen, calm your mind. When you think of courage, what comes to mind? First thought, best thought, what comes to mind? Here's mine. For almost 2 months in 1989, students in China protested for democracy. At the height of the protests, about 1 million people were assembled in Tiananmen Square. The military responded with assault rifles and tanks. Estimates of the death toll vary from several hundred to several thousand. Thousands were wounded. On June 5th, a lone man stood in front of a column of tanks leaving the square. As the lead tank driver tried to steer around him, he moved into the tank's path, peacefully holding his ground. He then climbed up onto the turret of the lead tank to speak to the soldiers inside. When he returned to his position in front of the tanks, a group of people pulled him aside. His identity is still unknown. He has come to be known as Tank Man. The grainy photo is iconic, and Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people of the 20th century. I have so many unanswered questions about him. Was he just fed up, suddenly, carelessly stepping up to sacrifice his life for the freedom of those who had come after him? Or were his actions the culmination of years of spiritual practice, letting go of outcomes, at peace in that very moment? Can we imagine the courage? Beloved spiritual companions, there are two kinds of courage in this world. One demands that we armor up and leap into action. The other demands that we strip naked and surrender. Pleasure and pain, gain and loss, fame and disgrace, praise and blame. May we seek to cultivate spiritual courage, look with unclouded vision, live with wholeheartedness. May we let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, look around to see who is there with us, and celebrate. Amen.
Arlington Street is entirely self-sustaining. It's up to us. And our generosity continues to be astounding. Thank you for your commitment to our staff, our building, and our beloved spiritual community. Each Sunday, we share our collection plate with a partner in our mission of love, service, justice, and peace. For 3 Sundays this month, our beneficiary will be Only a Child, founded in Guatemala City in 1994 by Arlington Street member George Lagar. Our gifts will support the Only a Child home and sponsor tuition at high-quality independent secondary schools and universities for youth from impoverished backgrounds. Thank you for your generosity. I'll be running out after the service today to sing in the Coro Allegro concert originally scheduled for March of 2020 and again for this past spring. Coro Allegro is Boston's LGBTQ+ and allied classical chorus, where you'll also find another familiar face, the lovely Yulia Yun, our former accompanist. Today, among other pieces, we're singing Letters to Our Children, Voices Across Generations, a newly commissioned work based on the true stories by leading queer youth advocates. If you're in the Boston area, Rev Kim and Rev Beth would love your company at the show. You can speak to either of them after the service about getting tickets. There's a special discount just for you. Thank you. Please take a moment now to join me in giving to our beloved spiritual community and filling our virtual collection plate. You can give online by scanning the QR code in the order of service or by going to ascboston.org. You can mail a check to the church or use the envelopes in the pews, which can be handed to Rev Kim or me or to any of our ushers after the service. You can also text your gift to the church by sending a message with the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 617-300-0509. Thank you for your generosity.
Thanks, Hala. So this next song is called Letter to the Past by Brandi Carlile, and it's become a new favorite of mine. I think the song is sort of a message of a wiser, older self, maybe an older mentor, but I kind of think of it as a song about singing to your younger self and trying to impart some wisdom, even as I love that story Reverend Kim just told where she said, I'm still trying to figure it out. I thought I was too young then, and that's kind of the message of this song too. We're singing to ourselves and trying to give ourselves the wisdom to go on. There's this line, you're a stone wall in a world full of rubber bands. And I kind of think of that as, we all want to be this fortitude, this armored barrier, this strength, and yet the world is constantly bending and snapping back and twisting in ways that we can never expect and that hurts us in ways we're not always ready for. It's a game, baby, it's just a game. And nobody loses when you learn to love the one who finally wins. Sometimes you'll be wrong, 'cause sometimes we get it wrong. But nobody leaves here alive, and nothing holy comes from being right. So don't hold your breath like that, baby, let it go. You're gonna feel it in your back, believe me, I ought to know. You're a stone wall in a world full of rubber bands. You're a pillar of belief, still fighting your shaking hands. Folks are gonna lean on you and leave when the cracks appear. But darling, I'll be here, I'll be the last. You're my letter to the past. You can cry, you know, it's always okay to cry. You don't even need to know why, but don't you ever feel alone inside. If you need to know the truth, I still haven't got a clue. If the blind can lead the blind, then baby, I'm just like you. You're a stone wall in a world full of rubber bands. You're a pillar of belief, still fighting your empty hands. Folks are gonna lean on you and leave when the cracks appear. But darling, I'll be here. I'll be the last. You're my letter to the past. You're a stone wall in a world full of rubber bands. You're a pillar of belief, still hiding your empty hands. Folks are gonna lean on you and leave when the cracks appear. Darling, I will be here. I'll be the last. You're my letter to the past. It's a game, you know, it's okay to lose a game, but always remember your name and have no shame because you're built to last.
There are weekly gatherings in the Zoom room for loving kindness meditation, poetry, yoga, and writing. This Tuesday evening, Rev Kim hosts Buddha's Belly Book Group and the Arlington Street Meditation Center. Every week, Rev Kim and Rev Beth host a tea party with a conversation prompt. This week's prompt is, what are some of the things that happen on your perfect day? Also, for those of you in the area, this coming Saturday afternoon, Rev John Gibbons, our Minister for Good Trouble, is hosting a Troublemakers tour of Concord's historic Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. Information and Zoom room links are at ascboston.org. To attend any of them, you don't have to be a member, you don't have to turn on your video, or talk if you don't want to, and they're all free. All are always welcome. Following the service, everyone is welcome to join the virtual coffee hour. If you'd like to participate, please answer yes to the breakout room invitation that will appear on your screen. If you're here in the sanctuary, you'll need to go to the Zoom room before the Postlude begins. Rev Kim and Rev Beth will be out front. If you're here in person after virtual coffee hour, please come and say hello and linger to visit on the sidewalk. Thanks to all of you who joined in today's service and to all who made it possible. Remember, we're all in this together. Our closing hymn is in the chat and is 1028 in the Teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment. It was written by two Unitarian Universalist ministers, Jason Shelton and Mary Catherine Morn. Let's rise in body, rise in spirit, and join in singing together.
deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Before our benediction, I invite those of you in the Zoom room to please reach out your hands and touch the sides of your square. And those of you in the sanctuary to please raise your hands, palms out. Let's send loving kindness to the people to your left and to your right. Send loving kindness to the person on either side of you and to the people on either side of them. Send out love into this beloved spiritual community and feel it coming back to you. Love is the spirit of this congregation. And now for our benediction, I invite you to put your hands over your heart in Namaste. I bow to the divine in you. Go forth into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast that which is good, render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the afflicted, love all people. Serve the Most High, rejoice in the power of the Spirit. Let us keep this faith, beloveds, and pass it on. The service begins when the service ends. I love you. Bless your hearts. Amen.
Your people
Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.